Don't get me wrong, the Galaxy Note 8 is a fantastic phone. In fact, scratch that, it's one of the best smartphones of 2017. And even though all of my first impressions from when I got the phone a month ago still hold even today, there are some things that creep in which perhaps you don't realise upon first glance. So with that being said, let's dive right into the video. So both the front and the rear of the phone are plastered in Gorilla Glass 5, which is a very strong material structurally speaking and should even be able to protect you from a drop or two. Having said that, when it comes to wear and tear, the Note 8 isn't really holding up that well. Even with a month of, I have to say, very careful usage, the phone does look kinda scratched. What I did notice is that the sides and the front are more or less completely fine, but the rear of the phone does have some quite significant marks. Now bear in mind that I treat my daily phone really rather well. Whilst there is no case on it, I make sure that whenever I put it in a pocket it's completely on its own, and the only real contact it has with surfaces apart from my hand is when I'm placing it on a flat table. So the next thing, the screen is really large. And of course, you know that, I know that, it's a 6.3 inch display. This is one of the largest phone displays on the entire market. And when it comes to engaging with media on the smartphone, that size is everything. Comparing the 6.3 inch screen here to a standard phone's 5.5 inch, the difference is game changing. However, once that honeymoon phase of large screen content dies off a little bit, it has one slight impracticality, in that you really can't reach all the way. Which is fair enough, there's a lot of smartphones where you can't do that, but with the Galaxy Note 8, you can't even reach half of it. Combine the gargantuan proportions with the sharp chin of the device, and you realise that with any normal human grip, your thumb can barely reach halfway up. Now to take account of that, Samsung has created a one-handed usage mode, which essentially takes that giant 6.3 inch display and shrinks it down to just over 4 inches. But this takes the entire point away, because whilst you've now got better control over your device, your apps are not going to run in the full screen of the smartphone. You've just got a giant border around them, and the screen is still on here, so you're still having the battery drain of a larger display, but none of the benefits of it. Then we've got the speaker, and I didn't like it when I got the phone, and I'm not a huge fan now. And it's got to the point where if I'm traveling with the device, I almost force myself to take a Bluetooth speaker along with me just to make the sound better. Now one thing which is important to note is that if you prefer to use headphones and earphones, which I know a lot of smartphone users do, then this is no problem at all because the inbuilt DAC is really rather good and the audio quality through the headphone jack is completely fine. The only thing is, if you're the kind of person like me who prefers to listen to music out loud, then compared to some competing smartphones, this lack of audio quality really does take something away from the multimedia experience. The Galaxy Note 8's battery has been a bit of a hot topic. Perhaps in an effort to make the phone a little bit safer than last year's Galaxy Note 7, Samsung has reduced the battery capacity of the phone. And if you've watched my battery test video, you'll realise this phone is not terrible when it comes to battery life. However, after installing 202 apps on the device and really having used it really quite heavily, that on some days you really do have to reach for the charger twice. So perhaps it might hit evening time or night time, and you'll realise your phone is on about 4-5% battery left. One other thing you probably know about the Note 8 is the fact that it has an 18.5:9 aspect ratio, which is a bit of an odd one. It's a taller phone than most, and what that allows you to do is when you're browsing news articles, you can read a little bit more of the display without scrolling, which is great. However, it can be a little bit annoying too. Just about every single application and game has been made from the ground up for a 16:9 display, and even since 18.5:9 has become one of the new standards, they haven't been recoded. So all you end up getting when you're playing these games is just giant black bars on either side. So you've got the disadvantage of this really large hefty phone and not the advantage of being able to see more because of it. Even though it isn't, in some senses it makes the phone feel like it's running a beta version of a software. Now Samsung's S8 and S8 Plus, they got a lot of flack for the fingerprint scanner placement. And to be honest with the Galaxy Note 8, it's even worse. In the same way that we can barely reach up half the phone on the front, the same is kind of true on the back, so with a normal grip, you kind of have to shuffle up the device every single time you want to use it. So whilst I did initially force myself to try and use this fingerprint scanner, it ended up just being a little bit uncomfortable. I then tried the iris scanner, which takes too long to unlock and can be a bit temperamental, so I moved to the face scanner, which is faster, but then it doesn't work in low lighting conditions. So it's kind of ironic considering how many options there are to unlock the device, but in the long term I've ended up just using my pattern. Now to be honest, one of my favourite things about the phone is the implementation of the dual camera. Live focus compared to some of its competitors is a really good feature. However, one thing I did notice is that compared to the iPhones or compared to the Huawei P10 Plus, this feature works a lot less well in lower lighting conditions. Almost the second you hit a fairly dim environment, the feature completely stops working. So those are the main problems I've been facing with the Note 8. But bear in mind, there is light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of it, because this truly is one of the best phones in 2017. Note that a lot of the things I've said, such as a difficult to reach screen, are not unique to this smartphone, and you will face them with others too. But nonetheless, I thought this was a useful video to make in case you've tried the phone and you were completely enchanted by it, but haven't had enough time to really know what could be better. So guys, thanks a lot for watching, I'm Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'll catch you in the next one.